Last week, we went San Francisco 49ers and Survivor in week 3, cakewalk on Thursday night. You were a little bit, to use your own term, little nutless monkey about committing to them because they were playing your Giants, but I forget who you were on. Were you on Jacksonville or Dallas? We would have died last week had it not been for
No,
me.
I took the Chiefs in my main pool, so we would not have died. But I did lose 6 out of my 10 entries in the online, in the offshore sports book. But that interface sucks. They were $10 each, and the interface sucks so much.
Which one do you use? Which offshore do you use?
I didn't want to say because I don't want to give them advertising. Like they suck.
Just give me the first letter. I'll know what it is.
Yeah, M. But
Okay.
the point, it's like the interface is garbage. They're always trying to push like online blackjack on me. Like, what kind of moron plays online blackjack? I mean, it's like the dumbest thing you can ever do.
You're saying because the odds are stacked against you, no matter.
They're stacked against you. You can't count cards. You have no advantage. And how do you even know that it's not even more stacked against you? You can't see. It's like, and what are you doing in your house playing online blackjack with real money? I mean, that is just so stupid. Only a real man would do that. And and the kind of real man, he's the kind of real man who takes a bribe in gold. But the point is that, like, it's a shit site and the interface sucks. So I had 10 entries. It was really hard to like manage them. So I lost 6, and 4 is going to be a lot easier. And they were $10 each. I'm almost relieved. I didn't lose my home league pool because I had Chiefs there. I didn't lose in our pool, and I've got 4 left in that other pool.
Well, if you wanted to do an extra 6 entries, why didn't you just do them in our pool and you could have managed them yourself? Our interface is to run through run your pool. It's so easy.
I should have done it. I should have done that.
Yeah. So this week was the last week to buy back in our pool. We obviously did not have to. My wife has an entry. She took the Jaguars despite my warning, so she's buying back this week. And my early lean here, and we'll go through the math and the percentages owned, is just throwing it out there, was I put our placeholder in as the Chiefs this week.
Yeah, that's what I would go with too. I mean, I'd rather go the Niners, but we used them, foolishly burned them up against the Giants, and now I'm just kidding. You just play to win and get through. I think the Chiefs are probably going to be fine against the Jets. I think the Jets just don't have enough. The Chiefs would really have to lay. And of course, they could lose, but they would have to really not show up. And it happens. Dallas, just got beat in Arizona, and that was a similar point spread. But
this could be a look-ahead game for the 49ers as well when they play Arizona, as they have Dallas the following week.
Yeah, and also Arizona, could be 3-0. I mean, they had the Giants dead to rights. They should have won that game. And then they had the football team beat pretty much in the fourth quarter of that game. So they could easily be 3-0. And they're not a doormat. And the Niners, as you said, could be looking ahead a little bit. But they got 10 days off. They look pretty strong. I mean, I would still take the Niners if I had them, but Chiefs are my clear number 2.
Okay, so let's go down by percentages owned. As that you do a great article. By the way, I'm here with Chris Liss of Real Man Sports. All of Chris's content can be found at Real Man Sports. I'm Alan Seslowsky of RotoWire.com. Liss, you put out a great blog post article piece every week about Survivor, about the lines, which we're going to talk about in a minute, meaning against the spread. But let's just stick with Survivor for a moment here. Who are what are the percentages owned for the top 5 teams? And explain what that even means for our new viewers when we say percentages owned in Survivor.
Yeah, this is going to get noisy pretty soon because we're in week 4, and by week 6, there's all sorts of weird pools mixed in. But basically, at officefootballpools.com, it's a site where I think most of the pools are pay pools that people run. So it's a little bit better than like the ESPN or Yahoo, which have tons of free pools. It's a little noisier. This one has the Niners at 38.8 as of yesterday. The Chiefs at 20.5. Eagles at 19.9. And then after that, it's like Chargers at 6, Cowboys at 5.9. Those are the percentages taken of people taking, teams on that site in Survivor. So you kind of get an idea of what the distribution will be like in your league. Now, there's a lot of variance. Like my home league, I think like 9 out of 14 were on the Chiefs last week or something. It was like a big number on the Chiefs. So it's not always in lockstep, but it's just on average. It could deviate either direction. But on average, this is what I would kind of expect. And you can use that to sort of price in, okay, if everybody's on the Niners and I fade them, how many people will be left if the Niners lose? And you start to do the math on that.
All right. So so far in our pool, which was a buyback pool through 3 weeks. By the way, the pool, I got the numbers on our pool. It's a $10 entry, so it's it's just we're doing it just for the content and hey, what if type of thing. It's a lottery ticket. But if everyone buys back this week, it's going to be over $70K in the pool. So he does take a rake. I found that out. Which, by the way, he's collecting all the money and paying people out. So, what are you going to do? I'm sure most of these sites, right? Even the one that you were in, you said the offshore one, I'm sure they take something.
I don't know if they do. They might, but it's just such a crap. Everything's so scammy. It's that like offshore book, like play blackjack, get a deposit bonus for this extra thing, but then you got to do this. It's like,
deposit bonus is the worst because you got to play through 40 times.
I'm not. Yeah, I just. I put in $800. I got $80 deposit bonus right away. I bet that right away. And I haven't added since, and I've been tempted to, but then I'm like, the credit card rate is 6% now. Like the first time it was nothing. It's like everything's just such a rip that I'm just like, I'm soured on it. Like, they just need to, I don't know, like there just needs to be a clean book that's like not all full of shit and scammy, good interface, has a rake, and is available to bet. I guess they just don't make enough money because sharps use it and then sharps beat them. And then they lose money because sharps won't deal with the 6% credit card fee to play on the site. This is all Square stuff. So they just try to like exploit the Squares. So apparently they're probably good for the money if I win some of these long shot bets. I have Marvin Mims to lead rookie receivers in yardage, and that may come in at like 20 something to 1. But basically, like, I don't really want to deal with it more than the initial bets I put in and the content I got out of it.
Yeah. The best books, are the BetMGMs, the DraftKings, and FanDuel.
I couldn't get DraftKings customer service to fix my fucking account. Like those guys are like, it was beyond ridiculous. It was like, yeah, I have an old account. Like, well, you got an old email. We sent it to your list at RotoWire email. I'm like, that email doesn't exist anymore. Well, you're going to have to, it's like, dude, do you want to take my money or not? This is like 48 hours later, they're like, send your driver's license, which I foolishly did. And then by then I left Colorado. I wasn't even in the States and I couldn't do it. So it's just like these sites, it's like, it's just too much. Like, some of it's regulation, but it's garbage. A lot of these sites, the customer service at DraftKings was garbage. They probably a sponsor for you guys. It's not RotoWire saying it. It's me saying it, right? It's garbage. The customer service was just flat out bad. Like if there's somebody on it, they'd be like, let me fix this for you. You're going to, spend a lot of money. If the interface is good, the rate was reasonable, I'd be betting all the time. I'd be betting every week there.
Yeah. Underdog has been in the news for the last 6 months. They're trying to basically reimagine American. It's not going to be for you over in Lisbon, but reimagine American sports betting. That guy, Jeremy Levine, every interview I've heard with him, he actually wants it, like all these kinks to be worked out where the rake is minimal, the interface is clean. He's trying, but obviously the mega sports books are fighting against him right now, even trying to deregulate him for doing.
It's like, God forbid somebody should put out like a competent product, and push you to do the same and have what we call competition. Everyone bitches about capitalism. Oh, capitalism, look, it's so bad. But it's not capitalism, it's capture. Capitalism's where there's competition and the corporations have to fight tooth and nail to maintain an edge and improve the quality for everybody. But what happens is, it's like pseudo capitalism where people get some profits and they use those profits to entrench themselves and cut off competition. And that's what you see happening. And it's just, it's just garbage for the user right now. And yeah, I mean, like the best things when you're in Vegas at the sports book, right? You just go and bet. Yeah. But it's like, that's also just localized to Vegas and, you can't do it from your sofa.
Yeah, even here in Florida, and we'll get back to Survivor in a minute because I love this kind of stuff. Even here in Florida, like sports betting was turned on mobile for like 30 days, and then it was turned off because they're fighting with a certain group of Native Americans, and there's a whole thing. And now 3 years later, we still don't have it. And someone made the joke at the RotoWire meeting that sports betting was legal for enough time for Calvin Ridley to place his bet in Florida.
Yeah. So. Yeah, good. Yeah, real man. I got Calvin Ridley to be comeback player of the year, and he's been slacking the last couple of games. The big favorite, and that was Damar Hamlin, was minus 450. Right, I got Calvin Ridley at like 31-1. And I'm thinking, yeah, they probably will give it to Hamlin if they can just get him on the field. But why haven't they put him on the field, right? I mean, it's a huge risk if they put him on the field if something happens. So they're going to try to give it to him. It'll probably be sponsored by Pfizer, the whole ceremony. I don't know if I could say that on this podcast. You might have to edit it out. But the point is that, that I bet Ridley because I thought, I was going to get him at 52 to 1 to lead the league in yardage, and now I'm glad I pivoted to that because he was down to 31 to 1, and with Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson, forget it. Normal receivers can't even possibly win the yardage title anymore.
Yeah, if you were talking about comeback player of the year, I think that Tua has a shot to be MVP and comeback player of the year.
Now, it looks good now if he doesn't get concussed again. I mean, the thing about Ridley is, so it's like a negative that he was gambling. But remember, he was depressed, and they love that.
Mental health.
Oh, this is about mental health. I made some poor choices due to my poor mental health. This shows mental health. Mental health. Get treatment for your mental health. They love that shit. So they need a story. The NFL needs a story to sell. The Hamlin one's the obvious one. What a miracle, CPR, blah, 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 right? Anything to get rid of the elephant in the room. But if they can pivot to mental health with Calvin Ridley, it'll make me some money. So I'm going for mental health, Alan.
All right, let's cover a little Survivor, and then what we're going to do is we'll go into the ATS stuff against the spread, and then I want to talk about we call them panic players that we're basically 3 full games in here right now, and it's enough. I know everything's small sample size, but a couple players that you're really worried about, I'm going to cut out a little separate video for us and just call it like panic time players, and then maybe some actionable advice around that, whether it's just like dropping Kyle Pitts and just letting him be his problem, or, trying to trade low on someone, or, 25 cents on the dollar. We'll get to it. All right. Survivor.
Bullish on QB1. I really think his off-field activity is going to skyrocket pretty soon. That's just my prediction. I'm not saying it's a certainty. I'm just saying it's a prediction.
You're talking about Zach Wilson, of course.
Yeah,
for those
QB1. Yeah, QB. If you don't know who QB1 is, you're not paying attention.
And by the way, people seem to like that this video doesn't stay on topic in zigzags. I got a lot of comments, and our videos are doing pretty well as far as, relative to the channel.
You know why, though? You know why that is, Alan? It's because most videos are boring as shit. Not because of you, but it's like, who do we pick up on waivers? Well, why don't we sort by who did the best last week, who got the most targets, and let's talk about what the same thing everyone is fucking talking about in every single video, every single radio show, the same thing. Who do we like in Survivor? Who do we like? There's 3 teams to choose from. Which one do you like? Is it this one or that one? Oh, you're going this one, but it could be that one. Every single video is the same, right? So you just bust in with some, distracted talk, and people get annoyed because they're like, dude, I just came here to find out who to pick in Survivor. By the way, if I knew who to pick in Survivor, do you think I'd be doing this video? I would win every Survivor pool every single year. Survivor would end because the word would get out if I was doing the video, and nobody would lose. There would be no point. It would be over. It'd be like, oh, everyone wins. We all get the money back. You'd just be sending money, sending it back. And then you'd have these giant Survivor companies taking, just making the interest payment on it, knowing they're going to just send it back to everybody. There'd be no point. So nobody knows. This is all bullshit. You are wasting your time. The only thing to listen to is something that might make you think creatively, or have a new idea, or open your mind to something, because none of this bullshit where you want your hand held and told what to do is going to work for you in your life. I promise you, you're going to go to your grave. You're going to be 80 years old. And you're going to be like, shit, I should have thought for myself. I should have had an original critical thought in my entire life once, but I didn't. I just watched the video and I did what they said. So that's why they like it. Yeah, and you know what? I was at a meeting last night. I do the basketball refereeing, and some guy who was like hawking me to like help him with his fantasy draft. He's a casual player. So I send them my list, which is basically I download the RotoWire list, and then I just make a few tweaks to it. And he's not a guy who's going to be playing fan. So I send him the list, and then I get to the meeting. It's 3 weeks in the season. He's yelling at me that his team sucks. Yeah. I mean, dude, do it yourself then. Like, give me a break. You got Justin Fields hasn't been good, and got Justin Fields. You steered him into Justin Fields. He should be yelling at you.
You got him in like the 7th round of a single quarterback.
I'm just
league.
Kidding. I like Justin Fields too. I just thought he was going to get hurt. I didn't think the Bears would totally collapse.
Do you think there's any like DJAF factor with Fields this week? Like he could just go nuclear
like
he did?
I think go nuclear totally. He's going to do it 1 week unless he gets hurt.
Yeah, I have a sit decision with him and Geno, and I cannot bench Justin Fields,
Yeah, I mean, Geno, the Giants have been pretty bad defensively, but yeah, I would probably
There's
go
no
Fields.
way.
Yeah.
Because even Fields is like worst game. We've said this last week is like 14 points, 15 points. That's like, if you get like 18 out of Geno, you're like, all right, thank God he didn't implode this week.
Right. But Geno could get 30 against the Giants. I mean, with those receivers, it's totally possible, but still, yeah I hear you. Yeah. Just do the bold thing. I mean, it's your team. I almost picked up Ryan Tannehill for a start, and I resisted because he had a good matchup against the Chargers that week. And he actually did fine. He would have done fine, probably better than my guy did. But it's like, I was like, oh, I can't do that. Like, what do you mean I can't? It's my team. yeah, I paid the money for it. I'm going to start fucking Ryan Tannehill if I want to. Just think like that. Think boldly. Don't be so worried about making a mistake.
I lost Mike Williams in my NFFC team. I'm in 4th place, so I'm not dead. I'm like right there. And I thought I was putting an aggressive bid on Josh Palmer just because I need not expecting him to be wide receiver, but I'm expecting him to be startable in a 3-receiver league. $41 41% didn't get it done. He went for
41%. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's what I'm saying. I was like, oh, okay.
That was a high bid. I went like 200. No, I went 100. Sorry, like 102.
You didn't get him. You didn't.
No, a guy went 200. But I was like, Josh Palmer. I mean, it might be Quentin Johnston who gets the.
Well, he was obviously drafted in the NFL.
Right. No, I know. But I'm saying like you can't get him on waivers, but he may be the guy who actually benefits. Now they drafted the guy in the first round. Why did they draft the guy in the first round if they weren't planning to use him? I mean, they weren't. If Williams doesn't get hurt, they're like, oh, we don't need this guy. Really? Do you fancy yourself a contender? Might you use your first round pick, during the season to actually help you win? Well, now they may have to rely on him. So Palmer is, he'll get involved, but he may not get,
he's 5 for 63. That's his stat line.
Yeah. I mean, but he'll have some 3 for 35s too,
Right, but I'm saying so last week he gets into the end zone with a 5 for 65, and it looks a little better. Had he done that 5 for 40 with no touchdown, I wonder if the bids would have been so aggressive for him this week.
Right, but once Johnson starts doing the full practices as a guy who's in all the 3-receiver sets, I think that that may change the target distribution too.
Yeah, they also have again, this is like dynasty nerd stuff, but like Darius Davis actually was their fast guy. He was again, don't pick him up in your seasonal leagues, but I know. And if you have like no one to cut, like you never know. Why can't it be the day 3 guy that pops?
I truly hate the Chargers. I'm bummed that Minnesota didn't score that. I mean, I can't believe Minnesota didn't win that game because that's such a Chargers game where they lose. I mean, I don't think it was a bad call to go for it on 4th down up 4. I think it was the right call, but I just thought they were going to lose that game, and I just hate them. I just hate that team. Brandon Staley, they're just so stupid. They're like the fake analytics team, and of course they drafted a guy in the first round who was on my primetime team who they decided, oh, we're just not going to use him. Why let's just draft him in the first round for no reason.
He lost it in the press conference too. He did the thing that you're not supposed to do in the press conference after when they were grilling him. Like you're not supposed to like get pissed or show that you're annoyed. You're supposed to, at very minimum, do the Bill Belichick, like don't answer anyone. But I think this is where like you just remain positive because they're coming at you with like this force of negativity. Unless you're going to totally go real man scorched earth.
Gotta go scorched earth on
but
these people. People don't know anything. I mean, because that was the right call. I mean, like he went on 4th and 1. He didn't make it. If he makes it, they win the game then and there. If he doesn't make it, they still need a touchdown. It's not like, oh, they're already in field goal range. They can't kick a field goal. And in fact, they won the game. So like the decision worked out fine. I think you would question if they lost the game. People are like, oh, that's results oriented. Yeah. Results are what actually count. And so that actually matters. People like, I got into this. I'll get into this at the end of the segment. I wrote a segment because this guy on Twitter was coming at me with this take about the Blake Snell Cy Young Award. And
the process bros are at it again?
Yeah, the process morons, right? And these guys, they're like making a category, or they're like a religious cult. They cannot understand the difference between past and future, between indicators and the result itself. We'll get into that at the end.
Yeah, so more or less what Chris Liss is talking about is you hear it all the time that, oh, I'm always going to adhere to the process. And even if you get it wrong, it was good process. And I kind of use the example when I try to explain to someone, you definitely articulate it in a great way here. And we can get into it now. It's fine. Okay. But I just, I always say like, hey, if you have 18 and the dealer's showing 6, right? You would never, the process says obviously do not hit, right? In a blackjack. But if you hit and you get a 3 and the dealer has
a 10 underneath and he would have hit and gotten 19 right and beat you, then you made the right decision. People are like, that's the wrong decision, but that's actually totally false. It's the right decision. We're not saying because you made the decision, this is the rule you follow every time. Then it would be a bad decision to say, I'm always going to do this, right?
And this one particular thing.
And in advance, it's probably a bad decision, but it might be a good decision. It's probably like an 85% chance that it's a bad decision, 90%, 50% chance it's a good decision. But you don't know because you don't know what the next card is. Once we know the card, then it's 100% good decision. And these people cannot wrap their minds around it because they're like, no, it's a bad decision. You don't do that. No. It's a bad heuristic. It's not a bad decision. The decision was correct. Would you rather win money or lose money? What's the point of blackjack? To win money, not to like be able to put on your report card that you did the right thing, right? and people, but this is the thing. People think, okay, the key to doing well in betting or in sports or in life is to have a good process. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe your process is going to help you over the long run. Certainly staying on hard 18 against the 6 is the correct process. And certainly in the long run, doing that every time is going to be way better than hitting every time. We all know this. But that just is your rule. That's just like a good practice. But when you're actually talking about why do you do the practice? Well, it's because over the long haul, you want to get good results. So the reason to do the practice is not for the practice itself. It's for the result. So if one thing that you did, hitting, gets you a better result, then that was the better choice, regardless of what was likely to be the better choice before you did it. And if you cannot separate between something that is a good heuristic, something that is a good rule of thumb, and something that is now in the past. See, things in the future, you want to go with the most probable outcome that benefits you. But things in the past, their probability is gone. The event is complete. We know with 100% certainty what actually happened. So the idea that you're using probability and then going backwards to try to analyze it is fucking stupid, right? Like we know that it's 100% chance that it was a 3 because now we know. So when you evaluate the decision in hindsight, you say that was the correct decision. Was it the correct heuristic? No, it was the correct decision. And so, this is what I got into with the Cy Young thing. People are like, oh, Blake Snell got lucky. Look at his BABIP. He got lucky. First of all, I question whether how much of that's luck, okay? But that's a whole separate part of it.
So, Joe, keep in mind, though, you have to explain like nuances here because people may not be familiar with the argument or with baseball when they're tuning in for a Football Survivor video.
Fine. BABIP is just once the ball's in the field of play, the pitcher can strike guys out or they walk guys. But once the batter puts the bat on the ball, it's kind of like not in the pitcher's control anymore. Okay. So they say, but that's actually not entirely true. It's usually true. It's for the most part true. It's on average true. It's not true in every case. Mariano Rivera was a huge exception to that rule, but there are some, for the most part, it is the case. But the point is, let's just assume and concede, even though I wouldn't concede that really, that Snell just totally got lucky, right? Why doesn't he get credit for his luck? Where they say, well, you'd be an idiot to sign him to the same contract that you'd sign Spencer Strider to, who was more skillful, even though his ERA, he allowed 35 more runs than Snell did, right? The better result was for Snell. The better, indicators were for Strider. And they want to give Strider the Cy Young because he had better indicators. And they say, well, if you're a GM, which one are you signing? Which one are you paying? Strider. I would pay Strider also. But we're not talking about predicting the future. Stop using predictive methods for the past. The past, let me give you a little a tip for everybody. You don't need to predict the past. You don't need to predict who's going to win last year's Super Bowl. It doesn't matter who had a better YPA, net YPA, who had more yards per play, net yards per play. We know who won last year's Super Bowl. It doesn't matter what the predictions would have said. You don't have to predict the past. Stop using future-looking metrics and then analyzing the past as though that has any validity. All those are for is when the future, which is unknown, it gives you a better chance to get it right? But when you're looking at the past, we don't need a better chance to get it right. We don't need indicators. Ooh, what's the best indicator for who's going to be good last year? The result. That's it. That's the indicator. You want to know who won the Super Bowl last year? Look up who won the Super Bowl. Don't look at indicators. Just look at who actually won the game. And these people are looking at the past, basically the past 2023 season, and using future-looking indicators and being like, you're an idiot if you think ERA predicts ERA better than strikeout to minus walk percentage. I'm like, I'm not predicting his future ERA. I'm looking at his past ERA, right? He prevented more runs. He's the Cy Young winner by far. It's not even close. So anyway, this is the kind of thing. And you get into it in football too. They're like, Barkley or Darnold, what's a better pick? Oh, you always take the quarterback. Really? That's for the future. That's a heuristic for the future. Who was a better pick, Barkley or Darnold? Barkley. All right, like Darnold is barely hanging on to a job in the league. He's been a disaster for 3 teams. So, this is like if you don't understand what I'm saying, listen to it again. And if you still don't understand what I'm saying, stop watching this because you are in a cult, and I can't help you. I can't help you.
You'll get there. They'll get there. They're watching because they're interested. And
the people who don't understand the distinction between past and future are in some sort of like, I'm smart. I learned the stats thing. I learned about indicators and not these stupid stats like, passing touchdowns. That's not predicting. Those people, that's all they can see. That's all they can hear. They're so proud of mastering the 101 course that they can't see that that's only applicable in a narrow direction. And so if you can't see it, even though it's been explained to you as clearly as I'm able, then just forget it. Just stay with your thing. There's no point in watching.
Fair enough, and I think that applies to fantasy football as well. We get too buried into the stats sometimes, and it's like, we know it's right now. Raheem Mostert is the RB1. You know what I'm saying? It's not like going forward. You could say, okay, 31 years old. It was all these different things. So I do.
I mean, the predictive stats are still the predictive stats. I'm just saying, don't take an L because you got the predictive stats instead of the result in the past. That's all I'm saying. I mean, don't take a W. Yeah.
All right. Survivor, we're taking the Chiefs this week, right? Let's wrap this part up.
It's Niners, Chiefs, Eagles, as far as I'm concerned, and that's just the order that it is in the spread, which is kind of boring, but that's the way I feel about it. Eagles looked really good to me, but short week, division rival, letdown game, and the what's the team called? The football team. They always play them tough, and so I think the Eagles will win, but I feel a little bit more nervous. I wouldn't mess with like the Chargers, Cowboys, Vikings. I could see the Cowboys, but McCarthy is such a nutless monkey. I don't know. I would probably not use them this week.
Who are the Cowboys playing?
The Patriots.
Right. That's completely dangerous. I could see them losing that game outright.
Cowboys are better at home, but McCarthy last week, before Dak threw the interception that sealed the game, they're down there inside the 5, and they're running the ball. And there's like 4 minutes left. They might have a couple timeouts. They're down 10. And I'm like, dude, you're down 2 scores. There's 4 minutes left in the game, and you're just acting like you got all the time in the world. Like, you're definitely going to stop them 3 and out next series. I mean, what if they get a first down? You got to, McCarthy just doesn't, he's just not paying attention. I mean, he's not there, because no coach would be like just kind of taking their time down 2 scores like that. And then Dak threw the pick, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah. And also, I don't buy a revenge game narrative. I think it's kind of like a joke of itself, but you got to think that Zeke is going to maybe get in the end zone a couple times. Patriots get close. He was good last week as well.
Yeah, you love Zeke, and he's doing better than you thought. Didn't we have a bet of Ramondre versus Zeke?
And I'm
touchdown?
crushing. We have a couple bets going where Ramondre versus Zeke. I have Zeke rushing touchdowns was the bet. Right. And then we also have a bet, more PPR points, Cam Akers versus Kyron Williams. Now, you're back alive this week.
I'm going to win that. I actually think I'm going to win that. Now, you should have taken the buyout when I offered you. I did it for 12. Here's the thing. Kyron Williams is not good, right? He's slow. He's small.
I agree.
He's probably not going to keep the job. I think
who's going to take it? Who's going to?
I don't know, because his backup is just like him, small and slow.
Right.
They have a guy they drafted in like the 6th round on the bench, like
Zach Evans. Yeah. But
maybe who knows? Yeah. It's just a random guy. But the point is that, I think Akers might be good, and Madison sucks. By the way, Madison is the Mike Davis this year.
Oh yeah.
And I think that that if Akers shows anything, he's just going to take that over, and then he's going to be in a good offense.
All fair. You want to double down on that bet?
Do I want to double it without even Akers having the job and Williams having the job?
That's the answer is no. I'm not forcing it.
I'll double it. Let's do 40.
Okay,
I'll double it.
And I already have a head start here.
Yeah, I know, but it's minimal. It's not much. Okay,
right.
Let's do it.
Well, it's more about the pride. You're doubling down, and
I'll double down. I said it, and talk is cheap, right? I'm going to do it. I said it.
All right, now that you doubled down, do you want a $20 cash out? Just kidding. All right, let's talk against the spread. Last week, the one I want to review is that you liked the Jets getting points at home. This is last week against the Patriots.
I didn't use them.
I used it based on your set, but again, I agreed with the logic. Is Zach Wilson? I mean, this has been plowed.
I did use it. I'm looking at it. I did use it.
This is plowed over on every ESPN talk show. I don't want to go too much into it, but now they signed Trevor Siemian. Go ahead.
If he evolves.
If he evolves, I was giving you space to make the joke.
Yeah.
Do you think that at least solves this like minimum threshold problem the Jets are having?
He's borderline with the minimum threshold. He's a career, not a good. You're not like, oh, sweet, we're fine for a couple of games. You have Tyrod Taylor, you're probably okay. If you have what's his name,
Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco,
Case Keenum, you're okay, right? You have Trevor Siemian, that's not okay.
That's Nathan Peterman territory.
It's not quite that bad, but it's like Colt McCoy territory, right? And that's not like you're not happy about that, and so it just shows the desperation, right? And so maybe it's good for Garrett Wilson. I just don't understand why QB1 is like so bad. He's very mobile too. He can move, I don't know what happened to him.
Well,
it's like those vampires must have those 40-something-year-old female vampires sucked the chi out of him or something. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I can tell you again. I only use the example of the high school refereeing that I do because I see it all the time. There is guys that do so well in like middle school basketball, like they're on point. They manage the game. They get into a high level varsity contest, and the coaches start yelling at them, and they shrink, and they can't even make a call. They're screwing things up. When you get into NFL pressure cookers, and everything's faster than it was at BYU when he was a star.
Right.
That makes a difference to some people. The margins are so little there.
There are some people who like that little leap in level just destroys them, and other people that actually get better. They're like, oh, I was waiting for this level of competition to really, become myself. Like Patrick Mahomes was a good college quarterback, but he, obviously arguably the GOAT now. Mm-hmm. And then there's some people that just grow with the level, or it's a little harder at the level. They're not quite as good, but it is weird when there's that we call it the quad A guy in baseball. He crushes triple A, but he's only good for quad A. There's no quad A. He gets sent to the majors and he's terrible.
Yeah, and then you get, like you just said, there's quarterbacks. Forget Tom Brady, but like Dak and Russell Wilson that go in like the third and fourth round, and they get the NFL, and in their peak, they're stars.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, let's talk against the spread for week 4. I call them 3 high confidence bets, but just ones where you had where you think there's a value, a market advantage. Not necessarily that maybe you are betting them. So what's the bet that against the spread? Which teams and what's the number that you're looking at this week?
Yeah, so I just I guess the lines early in the week. I won't write up my actual picks. My picks were so bad though. I had like the football team lose 30. I was like, 6 is too much at home. They lost 37-3. And then I had the Broncos. 6. I think they're desperate. They lose by 50. I had the Bears. They were 41-0, and the Chiefs pulled their starters. So it was one of the worst, just in terms of like margin of loss that I've ever had. Like, it's one thing if you go 2-8, which I did because you lost on a pick 6 or like by 3 points, that's fine. But this was truly like I was way, way off. But you've
been the most valuable picker because the picks have been not great.
You can't do that. It doesn't work. You can't fade. Fading somebody. I told you the Brad Evans story. It doesn't work. Yeah. It's a disaster. Don't fade my picks. Just ignore them until I get on don't do anything in my picks. I mean, these are my picks. This is what I'm doing, right? Like these are your picks. My picks are not the same thing. Do what you want. Okay. But anyway, the ones that I kind of felt pretty good about, or the ones that were really off. I had the Jaguars who are
in London.
This London. God damn it. I always get tripped up by that. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay, so I wasn't that off on that. I had the Jaguars. I thought it was going to be 5.5, 6, and it was 3. But that explains it's the home field because it's a home game technically for the Jaguars. Okay, scratch that. That's totally. By the way,
the London, they're in London 2 weeks in a row just for next week, early advantage.
It's almost a home game for them because they always go to London.
Yeah, but you have the travel. You've talked about that with Rufus and
the travel matters. But anyway, so I kind of thought that was too small of a line, but now I know why. So scrap that. Yeah. Every year I just look at the schedule, I just put it in, and then I do the lines, and I'm like, oh, it's a London game. And then the other one I was off on was the Broncos Bears.
Okay, that line is 3, right?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a pick 'em. I thought Broncos going to Chicago would be a pick 'em, but they're actually laying 3 in Chicago, which the Broncos are terrible. I mean, they give up 70, and Russell Wilson is not right. I mean, his numbers
doesn't look too bad to me. He doesn't look as bad as people, but I understand he's not what they paid for.
He's not just not what they paid for. I watched a lot of that game. Like he's just not making good decisions. He's not crisp, and he's just kind of like he's just forcing the ball. He's not really like. I mean, look, he should have had like 500 yards in garbage time in that game, and it was just kind of like little bits here and there. It wasn't.
You're hearing the murmurs that Jarrett Stidham could get a look in a couple weeks, but listen, if the Broncos want to take a few pennies on the dollar to the Jets, let's talk. Let's talk here.
The Jets. Yeah, the Jets would take him, but I mean, the contract's unmovable. They'd have to get absolutely destroyed on the deal.
He would have to restructure, which they're never going to do.
Well, not restructure. I mean, they'd have to like give up. Like they don't even have picks to give up to get rid of that contract. So they already gave up picks for Sean Payton too. But so I just think that should be a pick 'em. I don't think Denver should be laying wood right now. I think the Bears are bad also, but no way I'm laying with the Broncos.
Okay, so you like the Bears at home getting 3.
Yeah, I just think it's too much.
Okay.
That's really the only one now that I forgot about the London game. I was also off with the Giants. I thought the Giants would be a pick 'em also, and that Seattle. I made them a pick 'em, and I thought Seattle would be favored, but actually the Giants are slightly favored. But it's not a big thing because it's under 3. So instead of being, I thought it'd be minus 205, which minus 2.5. It's actually plus 1.5, which isn't a big deal around the 0. But I'm surprised that the Giants. I don't know if Barkley or Andrew Thomas is playing. I would think they would be, dogs or a pick 'em against Seattle that's reasonably healthy.
All right. Any others that stick out or I want to do are panic players?
Yeah, not really. I thought the Pats-Cowboys line was lower than I thought, but then when I thought about it, I was like, no, the market's right about that. So that was really it.
By the way, I forgot to ask you, how are you enjoying our new setup where you don't have to do, where you just come in here, you do your podcast, I send you all the stuff for your podcast. Is that working for you?
Oh, it's great, man. And Ted Bell, we just did the Chris Liss one. Ted Bell did the same thing. We do the Arch Indie Chris Liss podcast, and that was great. You know how long I take to edit the podcast? It's like it was just like boom, boom, just post these things.
Right. And this one doesn't need any editing.
No, I don't care. We don't talk about anything. I mean, for you guys maybe, but not for me. Controversial. Right. It was nothing. So.
Right, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. So your quote, you're kind of like, let's say, you're not edited, but you have to. You can't go to level 10. You can go to level 7 here. Does that hampering? Is the upside still worth it for you to be? To do
totally,
it
totally.
Okay,
no. I'm lucky. I was thinking I'm lucky to have you doing the sports with me, and then Ted Belly doesn't do it every week, but once in a while he'll help me with the non-sports, and it's great, And like, how do I know you guys? Well, actually, I hung out with you. I've never even met Ted Bell in person, so it's just funny that you run into people, you start working with them, and it
works out.
Huge benefit.
And for us, it's benefit because we get, I think this is a premium piece of content for our YouTube page. I mean, people love it. Like I said, it's not doing 30,000 people jumping in, but every week 1,000 to 1,500 people comment, they like this video. If you do like videos like this and you like Chris Liss coming on the podcast, consider subscribing to our channel right here. Hit the like button and also check out Real Man Sports where all of Chris Liss's content is. All right,
realmansports.com. That's
realmansports.com. Let's see. Here you go. Uncle Ted said, "This guy is great. Oh, this guy's energy is great. You have good energy."
Ted. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just channel it. I wake up enraged and I just I got stuff to say. And you can't live in a state of rage. I said this on the Ted Bell. You can't live in a state of rage. You gotta create. I write stuff. I podcast. I do these videos. You gotta express it, and then you feel good. So it's.
So what I want to do here is just a tight 10 minutes on, everyone in fantasy football right now is like, oh my God, what do I do with this player? What do I do with that player? I could kind of give you the players that I thought, and you can just let us know what we should do with them. So we're going to call this players that we are possibly panicked about and maybe some actionable advice, if there is any, for the rest of the fantasy season. So first and foremost, there are teams out there that have not yet cut Kyle Pitts. He had a pulse last week. He had about 9 PPR points. What do you do if he's on your team?
I got him on one league. I got Kittle on that team, so I just have him on a 10-man bench. It would be a little squeezed if it was a 5 or 6-man bench. You start getting injuries and you start wondering, you might have to cut him. The skill, what the size, speed, talent level is, at least on paper. And so you still want to hold on to him, but it's the worst kind of player because most players that they don't pan out, you just cut him. You don't think twice about it. And Pitts is always one that you regret. Last year he was terrible and he finally got hurt. Not cutting yet, but Desmond Ridder is terrible. I mean, Desmond Ridder is just like Drake London. You got to be worried about too. He's like, is he even that threshold as a passer to get these guys the ball? And it's actually hurting Bijan Robinson a little bit too, because you need to sustain drives. You need to have the threat of a passing game. And, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do.
I heard Sigmund Bloom describe it perfectly. He said that with Desmond Ridder in there, he has all this caviar with no can opener. He said,
that's a good way to put it. It kind of reminds me of Tebow a little bit. Like Tebow got some wins and he was mobile and he can do some stuff, but like in the end, he just really couldn't throw a forward pass very well.
So you're going to start hearing the Taylor Heineke murmurs coming, especially since this game is going to be a standalone game that everyone's going to see. And if Desmond Ridder fails, I think we should see Taylor Heineke, and I think that could unlock the offense.
I think so.
Yeah, and
you just need barely competent. I mean, you got these weapons, and so don't drop Kyle Pitts. Just wait, see what happens with the quarterback.
Okay, so we're not panicked on Kyle Pitts to the point where we're clipping him.
I mean, we're panicked. I mean, it's a really bad situation, and Ritter could play 5 more games for all we know. But it's not like there is downside to dropping him if they make a quarterback change.
Yeah. But we also had someone ask if you have a YouTube page. I told you need to get a YouTube page up. I can help you get that up.
YouTube's like the most censoring scumbag. I'll get a Rumble page. I have a Rumble page. I'll put stuff on Rumble. Why do people go to YouTube anymore? Don't you know what they're doing? It's like totalitarian. Like they're just like an arm of tyranny YouTube, at this point.
You know what it is? Because most people aren't going there for a lot of people are for political takes, 1 million people. But what I'm saying is they're
going there to learn how to fix their
kitchen sink.
Yeah, totally. And it's got, obviously the content's great and it's very hard
amazing
to compete with that. Yeah.
And it's free.
No, there's great stuff. It's free. It's very good. I understand.
All right. Next player that I'm panicked about, Chris Liss, Najee Harris. I took him in the 3rd round based on his volume, his workload. He's already been, last year, the last handful of games, he was performing. He was scoring touchdowns. Should we be panicked about Najee Harris?
I mean, yeah, if you had high hopes, because Jalen Warren is in there on the passing downs, and that's bad. Tomlin was always a one-back guy. It was always like if D'Angelo Williams replaces Le'Veon Bell, then D'Angelo Williams is the RB1 that week, and then it's Le'Veon Bell. It was just whoever the guy was, that guy was getting all the carries, and then Bell would come back, and D'Angelo Williams wouldn't even get a carry, or he'd get 1 carry. But now they're really splitting, and when Warren's coming and getting those valuable 3rd down and pass-catching reps, that really hurts Najee. Najee, he's okay, but he's a bit sluggish. He doesn't have that burst. He's not super quick. There's a whole new generation of running backs, the Kenny Walkers and Travis Etienne's and Jahmyr Gibbs, and now Devin A-Chain. Those guys are super quick, super fast, super light. And then Najee is kind of this plotter. He's kind of like Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon actually ran a 4.43, but it's just they're all just a bit bigger and slower to get moving toward the line. And I think the upside is modest for Najee.
Would you trade Najee Harris in your league for a wide receiver who we like that basically hasn't done anything yet? If someone, again, cross-positional trades, that's the only way to make it happen a lot of times. So, would you trade away Najee Harris if someone said, hey, I'll give you Jerry Jeudy?
Oh, Jeudy was on my list of guys I'm a little bit worried about, and I have him in the league. Yeah, if I need a receiver, I would do it. I think that's fine. I think that's fine value. The other guy, I was thinking more like Christian Watson, right? He's probably coming back.
He's playing on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah,
they said
he's coming back tonight. But I mean, we saw with Cooper Kupp, you could easily aggravate something. But yeah, that would be what you would want to get for him if you could get it.
If Christian Watson has a poor game on Thursday night, if he has a 3 for 28, but it's 7 targets, would you trade Najee Harris for that?
Yeah, probably. That'd be good enough. As long as he comes out unscathed and gets, his 7 targets, I think that's good enough.
Okay. My guy Jordan Love balling this year, by the way.
Yeah, modestly though, sort of good rating and stuff, but
18th round pick. You're happy if you have him.
Yeah, I got Cousins in one league who's doing all right.
That's the right answer this year. And that's the right answer.
But I mean, there's the right answer is to fade these QBs because none of the top guys are doing that much.
All right, Josh Jacobs. I'm panicked about Josh Jacobs, but he's getting all of the work.
Yeah, and also Garoppolo, and I think he's concussed, but it looks like he's gonna be all right. Was checking down to him a lot in the prior game. I just saw every play was like a check down. That was the guy I was looking for. So they had some tough matchups. The Raiders are obviously always dysfunctional, but I have a bad vibe about Jacobs. I think he's gonna get hurt right when he starts getting the work. He's gonna get hurt. I just feel like I was out on him a bit this year, but ostensibly setting my vibe aside, I don't think you should be panicked on him on his role, and he seems healthy for now.
Who's a running back that you're panicked about?
Ramondre, who I was high on, I didn't get. I feel like Zeke's doing more than I thought a little bit, and that offense is just so sluggish. There's no playmakers on the offense, so it just doesn't seem like it just seems like a very grinded out offense and nothing dynamic. And so Ramondre, I thought was, maybe going to be a 65, 70 catch, 1,000-yard guy. And now I'm thinking more 800, 900 and 55 and not a lot of touchdowns. And it's not as appealing.
If we were drafted today, what round do you think Ramondre Stevenson would get drafted in?
Probably late 4th.
That's where he went.
No, he was going early. He was going early 4, late 3 in the NFFC.
So you still think that he's there? Okay, I was going to say 6th round.
Oh, maybe because Zeke's doing more. Maybe be 6th.
Okay. Tight end that you're panicked about, was it Kyle Pitts?
It was Pitts, which is kind of obvious. I'm not panicked about any. I like Waller. People are panicked about. I'm fine on Waller. He had some tough matchups. He was started out a little hurt. They're throwing to him. He's running the routes. Like they're gonna face Seattle. Watch this game. If Waller's completely healthy, which he's not on the injury report, he's gonna go like 12, 8, 100 and a touchdown. I mean, he's gonna be fine.
Who's a quarterback that you're panicked about?
Lamar Jackson. I don't like Lamar Jackson. Actually, the other tight end I wrote down was Mark Andrews.
Okay.
He started banged up.
Start with Lamar, and we'll come back to.
So it's a new offense, right? It's not the offense.
He's been producing.
He got 2 rushing touchdowns last week, but the passing game's just not really there. And the whole idea was, let's turn him into a passer. Let's not, let's go 4 wide. We got Beckham, who's now hurt, obviously, Bateman and Zay Flowers and Andrews will come back, and let's open this thing up. And I just don't think the offense is very crisp. The Ravens are not moving the ball very well. And I don't know. I just don't. And, he got some touchdowns, but every year these running quarterbacks that they get older and take punishment. It's like a really uphill climb to be that guy he was 3 years ago running the ball. So I am a bit worried about Lamar Jackson.
All right. Tight ends that you're panicked about. We talked about Kyle Pitts. What about Mark Andrews?
Yeah, he started off the season hurt, and I just think this new offense isn't exactly what they're used to. It may take some adjusting, and I feel like the Ravens did a really good job when Lamar came in the league of tailoring an offense that fit him. Now they get a new coordinator who's going to change things a bit, turn it into something else, and I just don't know that is in their interest or in his interest. So I'm worried about both of them.
Now you and I both, I've adopted this style of drafting from you about taking Justin Tucker in round 13.
Right.
Are you worried about Justin Tucker and his fantasy production so far?
I mean, no, but he did miss that 61-yarder, which really pissed me off.
Me off too.
Yeah, and I was like, come on, I'm straight down the middle. He's just a little short. But no, what's happening is every kicker in the league is becoming Justin Tucker. I mean, Matt Gay with 4 50-plus yarders in that game showed him up, and then you have Matt Prater just hit a 62-yarder. The record, Tom Dempsey cut off half his foot to get a 63-yarder in 1960-something. And then, you got guys hitting 57-yarders that are scrubs. These no-names are hitting. The kicking has never been this good. And it used to be Tucker was the only one. And he's probably still going to be the most consistent. But, the advantage he had is definitely narrowed from what it was. So, I probably wouldn't. I like just not worrying about him and drafting him there, but I probably would have waited another round or two and taken a chance.
All right, everybody. If you want to get behind RotoWire's paywall for free, right now you can. Just go to rotowire.com/try. RotoWire.com/try. Put in your email and the paywall unlocks, or RotoWire.com/pod, as you see on the screen there. Either code will work. And right now you can also go to Chris Liss's website, realmansports.com. That's where he posts all of his content, both sports and do you put your non-sports stuff there?
No, but it's linked to there. Okay. On the top, you'll see it.
So he does a lot of political commentary, all that kind of stuff. And we'll be back next Thursday.
Not just political. I talk about numbers. I talk about very, very large numbers. I got very obsessed with Alan doesn't care about this.
No. First
you
of all,
like the large numbers. Oh.
I like it. I'm frustrated because I don't understand it once you get to level 3.
I could if you kept going. You could. I can explain it to you. I'm not going to do it now.
Oh, I'm saying
I got one more guy.
Okay, but hang on one second. But I just want to, for the record, I don't dislike it. And each time you go through the large number stuff, I get a little bit more.
Okay.
But I get frustrated. It's like, playing golf or chess or something that takes a minute to understand.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. You're not one of the haters. A lot of people are like, I just don't get it.
No, I'm not a hater.
Big numbers. That whoever can generate the biggest numbers is the one with the biggest paradigm. It's the one with the biggest machine, the biggest function. This is about all of life. You want to know which company to invest in, which player to invest in, who has the biggest algorithm, which one is growing the fastest. So big numbers are fascinating. But there's one more player.
The reason I was rapping is because you said you had a heart out. But if you have, let me say. So here we go. So I'm going to say, give me one more panic player that we should be worried about.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, not panic, but he's got 1 touchdown. It was the first game of the year. And, remember he's tackled inside the 5. That's because he's slow. He gets tackled because he's not behind the defense ever. They're at the 10. They throw it to the 5. And he's got to break 4 tackles to get in. Of course, he's going to get tackled most of the time. I think he's going to be fine. But I'm telling you, Jarvis Landry is the comp, peak Jarvis Landry, which is not a bad thing. He may catch 105 balls for 1,150 yards and 6 touchdowns. But that's what you're getting. You're not getting that number 8 overall pick that people were doing. That's my opinion. And I think that when if Jameson Williams is not a total, screw up and can get his act together, you may see them like using him down the field and doing a lot of the big play stuff. So that's just, I think you may end up, with a little Deontay Johnson, whereas, George Pickens will, Jameson Williams will be George Pickens in the second half.
I'll just add one more panic player, a couple more without explanation is, I was reaching up in the NFFC to take Jahan Dotson in like the 6th round and maybe even greater sometimes, thinking he was going to produce better than Terry McLaurin. Sam Howell has not been able to support him. He was a big touchdown scorer, Dotson, that is, last year. So far, no good. He's on the and then another guy was Khalil Herbert. I was drafting him thinking that he was the lead running back, and that has not worked out. I've already dropped him in some shorter bench leagues. So these are not star players, but these are players that I was optimistic on, that I'm completely panicked. And my actionable information is cut. Not on Dotson. Hold Dotson for a minute, but cut Khalil Herbert.
You thought you were getting Jerome Ford, but you got a Dotson.
Very good. Very good. Anything else before we close?
No, that's it. I just want to get the Amon-Ra just in on you because I know you liked him.
No, I mean, so far, he's been, like I said, even though he hasn't delivered on that 8th, 10th overall pick, he's still in the game.
Oh, he's fine. I mean, look, I've got Garrett Wilson. That's
right.
That's much more concerning.
Yep. Couple other things is I'm just reading some of the comments. Some our friend Ted said that Jahmyr Gibbs is scary. Yeah, I still believe Gibbs has that upside. Give him a minute to get going there. But yeah, I'm not in full panic mode with him. I still believe. And then you also had somebody in there said that they like numbers. I already said in the chat to go to Real Man Sports and get all the links from there to go check out your numbers thing if you want.
The big numbers, yeah. Tree 3. Just go to Real Man, go to Chris Liss, the Chris Liss, the Substack link on Real Man Sports, and just search for Tree 3.
The quick promotion here. If anybody loves fantasy basketball, which is starting in 4 weeks, right? RotoWire just launched a new YouTube channel, RotoWire Fantasy Basketball. We already have videos up on there. We're putting a lot of TLC edited videos up there. They're great. So if you love fantasy basketball, rankings, sleepers, busts, everything to get you ready, RotoWire Fantasy Basketball channel. It's linked in the other channels section of our main YouTube page here. So go check that out as well. A lot of great content from all our prime guys. All right, everybody, we'll see you next week. I'll be back with Chris Liss every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time with another Survivor Fantasy video.